you all today. The kids had a wonderful time learning about people in the community and the importance of reading. They would like to thank the 40 guest readers who took time out of the day for that special event. From the high school, and I believe it was last board meeting, which was 2 weeks ago, you had an article in there about BHS graduate. What do you have today?
BHS graduate.
Recognized BHS graduate from 2008, that last week. There was an article about a student. Military, yes. Okay. It was probably your last packet. That was the good news from the high school. And it was a 2008 graduate. Her name was Sasha Savage, who is she was a supply on commission, a corporal supply on commission, I don't know the official, radar O'Reilly, keep in mind. The article actually. But anyway, there was an article that the United States Marine Corps recognized her for her service and her dedication to her job, and kind of joked with that in there as a "where are they now" type thing. So she was being recognized by the United States military, the Marine Corps specifically, for her service and dedication to her profession. So it was a good little article. And then finally, I have two of our wonderful primary teachers, Kelsey Silvers and Stacy Lyons, who are going to present some information to you tonight on our math intervention program called Math Club that we started at the beginning of the semester. And this was started to target students who on the MEP were not quite up to par on the MEP. So we targeted those students and we started an intervention program after school, voluntary program for the students, but however very strongly suggested program for those students to try to increase their performance. And so we obviously have been tracking that program with several different entrance, exam, and exit type thing. And kind of the midway point have some results that they would like to share with you.
As Mr. Bassage said, we looked at MEP scores when they came in late December, early January, and found a large number of third graders who had not passed the MEP math. Matter of fact, they had gotten 4s, which is the lowest proficiency that you could get. And we sent out letters inviting them to join our math club, which runs from 3:05 to 4 o'clock in the afternoon after school hours. They had to have a parent pick them up, or if they were already enrolled in Sparks, then they could leave our program and go right to Sparks for the following hour. We sent out 22 applications, and we had 15 children enrolled in the program, so that was a pretty good percentage that came. And Kelsey's going to tell you about what she's seen in the classroom. I'm a Title I teacher now, so I don't see the classroom part as much as the intervention groups. So.
Out of the 15 students, I have 7 of them actually that were not proficient. And they are some of my lower achieving students all around. However, I have seen their confidence in all subjects come up. They are actually some of my first kids to volunteer to answer questions in math. I've actually seen them succeed in the math I'm teaching in the classroom much more than they were now that we're building their basic skills that they were missing before. And they've all gotten a lot more confidence to participate more throughout the day. So not just in math, but in everything.
The program runs so that we have them in small groups of 5 or 4, and they spend 20 minutes of their time with one of us in a small group, direct instruction with manipulatives, whiteboards, hands-on math activities, and then the other 20 minutes of the program they spend on a computer in the computer lab using an online 10 marks program, which gives them problems. We set up the assignments, whatever we're working on in the small groups, and then they practice on the computer. If they come across a problem they don't know the answer, there's a tutorial they can click on that will, with headphones, will tell them exactly how to do the problem, or they can raise their hand. And we have a couple volunteers that also help us. Mrs. Teresa Winters comes when she isn't busy with sports, and my daughter Renee has come a couple times, and so they can help them with the problem if we're both busy with a small group at the time. But they really enjoy the small groups and the computer part of it. what kids love. I think they're playing instead of learning and stuff. I just wanted to share real quick with you some of the growth. We started this program in January, and we started it with the STAR Math test, which is an online math test. This is the beginning pre and post test for 12 of the 15 students. The other 3 didn't come up because of missing one or the other of the tests. And most students have gained. There are a couple who, it will say at the bottom, minus something. I had to black out the names too, because confidentiality, but each of those bars is a student, so you can see their first score. We're looking at the PR column, percentile rank, which you can also look at GE, which is grade equivalent. And then at the bottom, it'll say what the change is. So at the bottom, it says either plus 15 or plus 18, so that's how many points they come up. You'll find a couple that have gone down. The one that went down 24 points, she has been absent most of the time. She comes maybe once or twice a week, so we haven't been able to help her as much as we'd like. For the most part, most scores are going up. And the report will also give us something that looks like this. This is for one student. The black line is their aim line, and the diamonds are where they score. So we star map them periodically so you can see that all of them are gaining, just not as fast as others. Any questions?
Aside from the willingness to be a part of asking questions and stuff like that, I mean, do you get the enthusiasm from just the program in general? I mean, you talked about kind of that, it's not trickery, but you've gotten them to have fun with their classes. I mean, you see that rolling over into some of the other stuff, or are they really taking it on with the math?
Well, I teach intervention groups, so I have some of the same kids in my math club as I have in my literacy intervention group during the day. And when they leave literacy intervention, see you tonight, Mrs. Lyons, it's math club night. You know, we do it Monday through Thursday. They have Fridays off like Sparks does. So they're excited about coming, and you know, and there's other kids who haven't been invited who say, "Can I come to math club?" You know, well, not this round, maybe. We were hoping to get their scores up to grade level and then start exiting them. So if a few of them get there, we can let some go and bring some more in for the next group up. So we'll see, it's a new program. So.
Thanks a lot for coming, you guys. We appreciate it. All right. Always like that good news report. Thanks, Mike, for the reading. Appreciate that. Item 5, additions to the agenda. So we do have one addition that is incorporated into the latest and greatest that Karen placed before you, but we do have item 10B, which is going to be approval of candidates to be interviewed for the superintendent position. That was not originally on the agenda, so that is one addition that we have made.
I move that we accept the agenda as amended.
Support.
We have a motion and support to accept the amended agenda for tonight. Further discussion? All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Opposed, the same. Motion carries 7-0. Item 7 is minutes from the regular meeting back on March 25th, which were in your packet. Everybody have a chance to take a look at those. Any questions?
And move that we accept those minutes as presented without correction. Or
We have motion and support to accept the minutes from March 25th. Further discussion? All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Opposed, the same. Motion carries 7-0. Item 9, communications or expressions from the public. If there's anybody here that would care to address the board, please raise your hand and we'll get you up here.
Police bus inspections last Wednesday and Thursday. I was absent, but there were people from transportation helping, and we did pass with 100%, so we're all set for the next year with the buses.
Good deal. Good news. Got some of those really bad ones out of the fleet, right?
no, last year was with, 3 new buses?
It does make a huge difference. He doesn't look at those, but he loves his grade, but he is thorough with the older ones, so it does help.
Good. Thanks. Mary Ellen. Did I see another hand?
I did email, but I just emailed it before the meeting, so you won't get it probably until you get out of here and have a chance to check. But I did email the report for our family reading night that we had on March 27th. We had 126 students and family members that attended that night. It was 110 last year, so it's up. We'd like to see it go up even higher, and I'm going to have some new ideas for next year. But it was overall a nice evening, a good success. We had a Michigan author who lives in West Branch, who came down and did a neat program with the kids, and we found out Mr. Bassage's youngest is a rising Hollywood star, so. But we had about 20 volunteers for that evening, and I just want to, some of them aren't here, and I want to say thank you for coming and donating their time and energy and helping out with that night. There were animals, petting zoo, and some things that make your own ice cream and some neat things. It was fun. So.
Great. Anybody else? Communications? Going twice? No? Okay. We will roll into item 10, unfinished business. So item A and B are going to kind of be combined tonight. The superintendent search committee has been working quite a bit over the past few weeks, and I guess Brent, if you'd be willing to provide everybody with an update, we appreciate that.
Yeah, we met earlier today at 5:30 to basically finalize a list of questions for the first round interviews. That process has, for the most part, been completed. We've got some wordsmithing to do and work with some order issues of what order we want the questions to go into. But those should be done and wrapped up by tomorrow afternoon, which leads me to my next point is on Thursday, all board members will be able to stop at the administration and pick up a packet of information for the actual superintendent interviews. And in that packet of information will be all 5 finalists' credentials, as well as the interview questions for each person. You'll be able to look over those Thursday and Friday. They're the same things as the electronic version that I sent out. And then you need to bring those with you on Saturday for the interviews. Prior to the interviews, each candidate will be arriving 45 minutes before their scheduled interview, and they will be led on a tour of the district by volunteer staff members of BRS. And I just want to, and it's not important who's with who, but I do want to take the time to recognize the staff members who are going to come in on a Saturday and give up their time to portray the district. Bridget Rise, Sherry Davidson, Scott Wagner, Scott Wicke, Kathy Vermilli, Renee Inchko, Rochelle Brubaker, Brian Woodruff, Karen Carpenter, and Melissa Woods. And what their main roles are going to be is basically to give an overview tour of the district, just sign some of the things that are important to see, maybe look into a couple buildings, that sort of thing, and kind of some points of pride in the district. So, when the candidates first pull into the school, they're not lost. They're not, somebody's there to greet them, somebody knows who they are and what they're here for, and then we'll take them on a tour, and then we'll bring them back to the high school office, which will kind of act as the bullpen. Dave is going to act as the bullpen coach, and we'll be ushering in and out each candidate, and then give us time to debrief in between before he brings the next one in. So that's kind of what we worked on today, was just developing that whole process for how the actual logistics are going to work for that. The next thing that I want to update everyone on is the survey results. We spent a lot of time doing the surveys, the electronic surveys for the various classifications of staff that we have, and then also the written comments that staff members, or verbal comments that they could leave at a meeting that we hosted, the community input meeting before our previous board meeting, and then also the community surveys that were sent out in hard copies a couple weeks ago before spring break. So I'm just going to very quickly go over the top 2 responses for each group. I will send out the exhaustive list to board members, but just kind of as an input, the top 2 things, you'll see a pattern across the board, and then that kind of helps us determine when we're screening candidates, and then also coming up with questions. But for teaching staff results, we have 41 responses from the teaching staff. And then again, everything was ranked in order of importance, so they were forced to say what was the most important on down. The number 1 thing for teaching staff was the display professionalism and personal integrity at all times. And then the number 2 thing was have a strong vision for the future. For support staff, we had 10 responses from support staff. Their number 1 response was effective management of day-to-day operations of the district. Number 2 would be develop timely and efficient budgets, maintaining the financial health of the district. For administrative, there were 8 responses. First was consistently follow and implement district policy and administrative guidelines. And second was display professionalism and personal integrity at all times. Finally, community survey results. There were 50 community survey results, and those read consistently follow and implement district policy and administrative guidelines, and also display professionalism and personal integrity at all times. One thing that I should mention regarding the surveys is each group had a different set of parameters. They all weren't the exact same. They were kind of tailored to their position within the district. So they always didn't have all of the same, but there were overarching themes throughout that. So that kind of leads me into item B on the agenda, and I'll just kind of keep going if that's okay with you. Is last Wednesday the committee met to review and screen the candidates and come up with a decision of the 5 finalists that we would like to interview. I should say that we had a grand total of 27 applicants, which was an extremely healthy pool of candidates. Quite a lot more than I think any of us anticipated.
I was looking for 10. I wanted double digits, right, man?
We did very well. And because we did very well, it was extremely difficult to narrow the list down to 5. That being said, it will be, it's the recommendation of the Superintendent Selection Committee and my motion that we have interviews for the following candidates. And Stephanie, I am reading this, but we have a copy for you before you leave, so you don't have to write. From 9 a.m. to 10 a.m., Kathleen Jared, former superintendent of Morris Area Schools. From 10:30 to 11:30 a.m., Heather Ballian, curriculum director, or current director of curriculum, instruction, and assessment at St. Charles Community Schools. From 12 noon to 1 p.m., Patrick Briggs, assistant superintendent at Cadillac Schools. From 2 to 3 p.m., Drew Milleron, former superintendent at Posen Consolidated Schools. And then the final candidate is from 3:30 to 4:30 p.m., Susan Wooden, professor of English at Alpena Community College and former superintendent at East Jordan Community Schools. And that would be my move, and that's what I move.
I second it. So we have a motion and support before the board to accept the recommendation of the Superintendent Search Committee to interview the 5 candidates as read on Saturday, April 13th. Motion and support. Further discussion?
One thing I would like to mention is that the interviews will be open to the public. The public is encouraged to attend, and obviously we would like as much of the public to attend as possible. We're pretty pragmatic in the fact that there's probably not going to be a lot of people who want to sit here from 8 a.m. until 5 p.m. at night, so there's probably going to be a lot of coming and going. But we would ask that there will be 2 opportunities for public input as required at any open meeting. There will be one at the beginning of the meeting and another one at the end, depending on when you're there. However, the board will not be taking questions and will not be recognizing citizens during the actual interview time. We want to keep things as formal as possible and also keep the same set of scenarios and environments for each candidate. So the 2 public sessions for public comment will serve as meeting the Open Meetings Act requirement for public input. And that's all I have.
Just to add one thing, that's a great report, Brent. Relative to that, not talking about questions from the public, because we did talk about that in the previous meeting. We kind of went back and forth as a group, and again, like Brent said, to maintain consistency across those 5 applicants. We wanted to make sure that everybody had the same questions and the same opportunity. We did also talk about, when we narrow down to that next, smaller group, having an opportunity for a public forum to have a cup of coffee and ask some questions of those final two folks, or, you know, however it ends up shaking out, so that people do, we definitely don't want to exclude anybody, but we want to keep it the same for each one of the candidates, so that's our motivation.
And that community meeting for the final two candidates would occur prior to our physical actual interview. So they're still getting the same questions during the interview. They're just available to meet and greet, for lack of a better term.
One question, sure.
Oh, I have two. One is, how many teachers are on staff here?
74.
Okay. And I'm going to ask my anyway. Will that be printed, that schedule, online?
Yeah, well, we have, actually, I don't know.
Because I only caught two at the time.
Yeah, it'll go on the website, yeah. It's absolutely.
I can give you a copy tonight too, if you'd like one.
What was that?
If you'd like a copy, I can give you one tonight too. I think I have an extra one.
Yeah, I would appreciate that. Thank you.
But it will be on the website.
I can shoot this
All right, any further discussions?
Yeah.
You want to hear that?
And probably,
That's the other thing is you'll see tomorrow, the actual interview schedule has us arriving and starting the meeting at 8:30 because it's a public meeting. You know, the first interview starts at 9, but at 8:30 we have to approve the minutes. We have to have, you know, approve the agenda just like a typical meeting. We'll do that from 8:30 to 9, so make sure you do that.
One last thing too, and we did talk about it as a committee, you know, because of the importance of this, you know, we did kind of talk about how we want to portray ourselves to those 5 candidates. You know, we would really appreciate as the committee if we could all maybe hit the professional dress standard. I got to take my suit to the cleaners and knock the mothballs out of the box. Yeah, you know, I'd love to wear a t-shirt and jeans, but, so if that's possible, the board committee would appreciate that, and I'm sure the candidates would as well. Anything else?
Yeah, and some of that, it's generally the candidates come dressing, we should be dressed similarly to the way they're dressed is the way you usually work with interviews. And if it's for something that's at that higher level as a superintendent, they're probably going to be coming dressed in a suit.
If they show up in their Sunday sweats, that might not be so good, or Saturday sweats, right? All right, so we got a lot of motion, a lot of discussion there, but we have a motion on the table. Any further discussion? All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Opposed, the same. Motion carries 7-0. Thanks for the report. So that takes us to item 11A, which is 2012-2013 school calendar extension. So the state gives us 6 days, right? We are at 7 because we did have one day right before Christmas where we did not meet our 75% attendance. So we had a couple of different options out there for extending the calendar because we have a request for us to officially extend the calendar. I think the last thing we were waiting for was the informal poll of the VEA and teaching staff and employees. So I would like to say one thing. I like the format of the summary that you provided to us, Mindy, so thanks a lot for that. That's very nice to see. So it looks like the recommendation before us, I think, is, let me find that. Paperwork here, what happened to all the electronic stuff? Thank you. Got it here somewhere. So I think the recommendation is for Friday, May 24th becomes a day off. This would allow for a 4-day Memorial Day weekend. Monday, June 3rd becomes a full day with exams in the high school, field trips, etc. Tuesday, June 4th becomes a half day to finish exams in the high school, field trips, etc. We were really cognizant about incentivizing students to be there those last couple of days. If they were just half days that they could blow off, if we didn't meet that 75% requirement, we were right back in the bad graces with the state and, you know, potentially look at losing some revenue. So Tammy had the great idea for this incentivized, we'll call it growth schedule, I guess, to try to do that. So I think that's the recommendation before us from the administration.
yeah, the other results of asking for the input, and I also thorough you did this. Certainly that is the DEA preference. I heard back from 4 board members personally who favor this proposal, and all 3 of the building administrators responded in a positive. The only thing I would say is I'm just going to double check this because unfortunately our attorney today was still on spring break. But I don't think that precludes the board from taking this action. I mean, we're amending it one way or the other, so I can't see what the difference would be.
I just want to explain,
Friday, May 31st becomes a full day.
Friday, May 31st would become a,
No, the 20th.
Right now, the 31st is a half day because that's supposed to be my last day.
yeah, that's going to be a full day. Monday would be a full day on the June 3rd. And then the final day, as it was planned, would be the half day, which would be the Tuesday.
My assumption is that there would still be a records day then on that would.
Oh, yes.
Or on
Yes, there would still be
that
this,
was one question.
thank you. There would still be a staff record.
and one of the questions that people have is why we couldn't just add more minutes to the remaining days or an hour. The problem is we have enough minutes. We don't have enough days according to the state law.
Hours, minutes, days, you'd think it'd all be the same thing, but the state has different definitions for all.
And I did send an email clarification to all the staff so that they would understand that.
Yeah, because we looked at that, we also looked at what would happen if we made that last day a full day, would it count as 2 half days? It would work.
And then, you know, it might be a good idea though if we could let more of the community know how important it is that we have good attendance so the rest of the days, so that we don't lose, we can't afford to lose any money here, believe me. We're really tight, so, and I don't think anybody in the community wants us to lose money, so I'm hoping that everybody will rally and make sure that they're here that day, those days if we do this.
How many days did we have less than 75% attendance? Was it just the one you were not?
Oh, just the one. It's quite unusual for that to happen.
I heard the day after regular season opened was another day that we were.
It's close, but we were over.
And it's a total of, maybe a building is under, but it's a total of all of the buildings as a Beaverton rural schools, right? So maybe the high school was low, but if the primary and others, you know, brought everything up. Yeah, that's something we want to read.
Mike, question too, I know the way the state law states right now, after April 1st, intermittent days are going to make up. So does that also apply to the make-up day? So we don't have to worry about the 75% on a half day when we attend kids, we still count it as a full day.
I think we would lose funding, was
I
my
think we lose
understanding.
funding though.
No, but he's saying that.
On April 1st, though, the state required does not, like if we had a snowstorm
We had a
today,
Tonight, yeah,
we
yeah.
don't have to make up.
We wouldn't have to amend it again.
Right, but that doesn't count for just people not showing up. That counts for something like declaring, you know, if we have a snow day. If there's a, what they used to call active God days.
Yeah, but I think I see what you're saying there.
If we have a sewer, water main goes, we don't have to make that day up.
Right.
Correct.
But if we have a day that enough students don't show up, I think we're still going to make it up.
Yeah, I can certainly get clarification on it, but I think if we miss any days from here on out, after April 1st, for acts of God, then they are waived. They don't count. But in a make-up day situation, which this would be, I have to believe you'd have to meet your attendance, because you're substituting that day.
Right, for one of the days that were, so that was a question.
Right. That's what I believe, but I double check that, just to know that information.
Because Mike, that was my concern, if we made Monday, June 3rd, just a half day, we weren't going to meet at 75%.
Right, yeah. Each one of everybody gets.
So I'd like to make a motion to authorize the administration to lengthen the calendar by 1 day to meet the state requirements.
According to this plan.
Fair enough.
This will get updated on the website, I'm sure as soon as possible, and we'll also notification also be sent home to students, especially in the primary. And middle
seniors aren't going to be here then. That's, what percentage, that's not anywhere near 25% of our students, but it gives us a pretty good chunk that will already not be here. So that means that the rest of them have to have an even higher standard for being here in order to come. Okay.
Come to school. If
Please.
it's a day, come to
Please.
school. That's easy. Should have been here the day before Christmas too, but, or was it 2 days before?
At least 6% of them should.
Yeah, exactly. All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Opposed, the same. Motion carries 7-0. Item B, before us, we have a coaching resignation from Greg Ware for the position of JV girls basketball coach. The recommendation from the athletic department and administration is to accept the resignation.
Move we accept the resignation of Craig Ware as JV girls basketball coach.
We have motion and support to accept the resignation of Greg Ware as girls JV basketball coach. Further discussion? All those in favor say yes.
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 Opposed, the same. Motion carries 7-0. Item C in your packet is a resolution for the Clear Gladwin RESD board member. So back at a meeting in January, we took official action to delegate Bob as our delegate, as our voting delegate. But what we need to do today as a matter of formality is authorize this resolution to allow Bob to vote on our behalf for those meetings, for that meeting. So we do have that in your packet. Everybody has a chance to take a look at it. I'd entertain a motion for the resolution.
I move we adopt the Clear Gladwin RESD resolution to consider designation electoral representative for the biennial election. That's okay. I saw there's another line.
We have motion and support to accept the resolution as presented. Further discussion? As this is a resolution, Karen, please call the roll.
Sinowitz.
Yes.
Dave Clark.
Yes.
Dave Burns.
Yes.
Jamie Earl. Yes. Alex Reyes.
Yes.
Bob Bryan.
Yes.
Brent.
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0. Okay, Bob. Clear it up. Thank you. Item D, Chartwell's food service contract renewal. So every year, as a matter of formality, we take a look at our food service contract. We have information back from the state relative to some background information. As far as Chartwell goes, we do have with us tonight Lacey Kearns, who is our food service director, and Tammy Chafee, our business manager. If there are any questions relative to the program or financial aspects of such, the recommendation before the board is to extend the contract for another year with Chartwell's. So I don't know if anybody has any specific questions or if there's anything you'd like to add relative to.
No, that this is an annual requirement, yeah.
Anybody have any questions? I know we did talk about, was it 2 years ago, the meal prices being extended or increased, but Dave had an opportunity to go back and take a look, and we did do all of that action at a previous board meeting for increments, so we don't need to take any action for additional charges for meal rates. Anything you guys want to add or present?
This is just the regular, law schools just have to do with the piece of food service.
We go out for bid in 2014, 2015, so not even next year. Next year will be another 1 year renewal, and then the following year, it'll be the big 5-year contract. So we have to get that.
Okay, so I move that we accept the contract to extend the contract, excuse me, for Chartwell for the 2013-2014 school year.
Support.
We have motion and support to accept the Chartwell's food service contract renewal as presented. Further discussion? All those in favor say yes. Yes. Opposed, the same. Motion carries 7-0. Item E, hire JV football assistant coach. In front of us, we do have a letter of recommendation from Athletic Director Cliff Fawcett to hire Guy Smith as the JV football coach. With the email from him signifying his interest in the position.
I move we hire Guy Smith for the position of JV football assistant coach.
Or,
We have a motion and support to accept the recommendation from Athletic Director Cliff Fawcett to hire Guy Smith for JV football coaching position as presented. Further discussion? All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Opposed, the same. Motion carries 7-0. Item F is leave of absence request. In front of us, we have a leave of absence request from bus driver Shirley Kinney to the end of the year.
and I move that we allow the leave of absence as requested for medical reasons.
Or,
We have a motion and support to accept the leave of absence request as presented. Further discussion? All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Opposed, the same. Motion carries 7-0. So items G, H, I, and J are items that the policy committee has been taking a look at. So Tammy, if it would be okay to ask for you to kind of run down through. Again, this would be the first time that the board would officially see these. They would be presented for first reading and we would take action at the next board meeting. Also, along with the kind of practice we established after the last set of items, we will post these on the website for people to take a look at, the language or the items that we're taking a look at from a policy perspective as well. So,
The first thing that we talked about was freshman sports. It's been a question lately, is there freshman sports at Beaverton Middle Schools? Going back through documentation, we found that freshman sports is not supported or funded by the general fund at this time. Therefore, basically, we're just asking the board to reaffirm that policy that freshman sports is not funded by general dollars.
so that also means that, if we have a group of freshman athletes that would like to participate, we wouldn't preclude them from participating because they're freshmen. They would just be rolled into the junior varsity program, so they would still have the opportunity to participate. We're not excluding anybody from anything.
And again, I believe that most of the schools in the Jack Pine don't have freshmen.
Correct, yeah, we talked about that too. Most of the schools in the Jack Pine Conference do not have freshman sports at this time. And by funding from the general fund, that would mean such things as additional referee costs, additional busing costs,
Coaching.
coaching.
To clarify here, though, we did have a freshman basketball team this year, the boys, right? They played several games.
That was part of the reason that this got brought to board attention.
There was a freshman team, but it was not approved by the board.
So who paid for it?
I believe the funds did come out of the general fund.
That's what I thought. And there was extra busing.
That was
Just like to point that out.
appreciate that.
I questioned that earlier this year and was told that that was funded because we had extra money in the transportation fee, which players pay as a $75 charge. There was extra money there, so that's why the extra busing was provided.
And again, a lot of conversations and things, again, the request here is the reaffirmation of the board resolution to say that it will not be funded, so. Enough confusion existed to warrant clarification.
And part of our discussion has been, you may have noticed that we've become a little bit more and more driven by consistent policies and less by off-the-cuff decisions. And this is one of those painful things that happen where we made mistakes along the way, and we're trying to correct those as we go along. In fact, a couple of these other ones are about is correcting those things in our policy so that our policy and our action match. Startup costs.
Okay? All right. So anybody have any questions, freshman sport? All right. Next.
So we have to.
Nope, no action yet. This is just again for first reading thoughts, and then we'll have comments and action at the
Okay.
next meeting.
The next item we talked about was sideline cheerleading. This, for those that have been on the board for a couple of years, was established back in 2011 as a club sport. Again, we were just kind of reviewing it as it was brought to our attention that perhaps the coach was paid for the salary listed on Schedule B, even though it was considered a club sport. So it's the recommendation that the board just reaffirm that sideline cheerleading will not be paid out of the general fund and will continue as a club sport, and that the cheer position on Schedule B be identified as non-district funded to avoid any confusion that may come up in the future in that issue. Any questions or comments on that one? No?
Item I.
Okay, item I. This one, everyone has a copy in their packet. This is a policy, it doesn't even have a policy number that we could find. It's in the
No,
student handbook?
it would be policy by the fact it's in the handbook, which I assume is approved by the board,
Okay.
which makes it policy.
Okay. And it talks about how in order to attend extracurricular events on a certain day, the student must be present no less than half day, unless the student presents a professional note verifying an appointment that day. One half day consists of 3 out of 6 classroom hours in the afternoon, classroom hours 5, 6, and 7. If a student is absent on a Friday, they will not be able to attend any curricular activities over the weekend. And looking at that, the policy committee kind of took the stance that perhaps the decision if your child misses part of the school day and goes to an athletic event or an extracurricular event in the evening or on the weekend should probably be left up to the parent or guardian. So our recommendation is that we rescind this policy. There are other policies, Cliff advises us that deal specifically with athletes.
And I wonder if, as a first reading,
Again, yeah, this
Yep.
is just the first reading.
we had talked about it remaining in the athletic handbook because it is in that athletic handbook.
But this policy, the way it's written, is pertaining to any student, not necessarily the athlete.
We did also hear from Joe today, and I was hoping he was going to be in
Yeah.
attendance tonight to discuss, but the conversation that we had with Cliff was from an administrative perspective, especially on an away game. It was just a nightmare to try to track
And
students.
to try and enforce and
Somebody,
track.
yeah, it was just so much extra to do. Athletes, or, maybe we need to take a look at not just athletes, but extracurricular activities.
Yeah, yeah.
Does it
Yeah,
read right now?
extracurricular events.
Okay. But it wouldn't appear anywhere than in the athletic handbook, right? Or this is high school.
Yeah, my belief is in the policy committee meeting was that it would remain in the athletic handbook for athletes.
Correct.
They would fall into that requirement, not for the student who is not involved in that activity. That'd be that.
Forensic students.
It's extracurricular
Okay.
events,
Yeah.
Yeah.
not necessarily athletic.
Right. But where would, and this is just my question, right? Where would that forensic student read if they don't get a copy of the athletic handbook? So we just need to look at that.
Good point.
Yeah, because I think we were talking more about attendance at games and stuff like that, but yeah, that's a good point.
If you could simply remove the word athlete and put in extracurricular, but
Good point.
then they need to, that was,
The other thing I'd emphasize is just that I know that Mr. Castellacqua did send you each a copy of his, the way he would like to see this policy finalized, and also there's a hard copy in front of you too, for consideration 2 weeks from tonight.
okay.
The last one that we talked advice from the athletic director will decide by 1 p.m. about participation in extracurricular events. We found this was actually in policy. A couple folks thought it had been changed previously, but we couldn't find the later version than what's in front of us. And we know that, like for instance, in January, we didn't have school on that one Friday, yet we held the Beaverton Glamour basketball. It kind of goes against the policy. So we're trying to change that, so if the weather does get better during the day and we decide to hold the games, then we can hold the games.
And that was also in keeping with the policies of many of the other Jack Run districts.
Right.
And again, there were several of us, I remember discussing such a policy, but apparently we never passed such a policy.
We couldn't find it right.
That's right. And so this is basically that some more of that fine tuning, the things we find out that are wrong in the policy that need to be corrected or that need to be tweaked and fine tuned. This is one of them. And then the question is we got 2 weeks now for people to tell us whether they think that's a good policy or a bad policy, and so I expect to hear about it.
The other thing, Tammy, is all of these would take effect for the 2013-2014 school year.
Correct.
So that's
Yes,
not
sorry.
changing.
Thank you
anything
for,
that's out
yeah, bringing that up.
on the books for now.
Tammy, just so I understand you correctly on the student handbook policy revision attendance at school events, you were saying that students who are not participating, like say playing basketball, if they miss a half a day of school, whether it's beginning or end, would still be able to go to the event.
To the event.
Okay.
Starting
I know
next-
it's not in handwriting yet, you're just
Starting
discussing
next
it.
school year. That's our proposal. It'll be
Right.
up for a vote next school year.
Which makes complete sense. I just want to make sure I understood
We
you.
might clarify too, because this is part of the public debate now, but Joe at the high school would like to see that still be the policy for students who are not participating for home games only. So that's part of the discussion.
Yeah, you and I have just, I think, discussed this, that it's always been for 3 years that if you were there half a day, it didn't matter which half, in theory. Now in the handbook it said one thing, but in theory it was if you were there half a day, that was fine. And then it all of a sudden changed, in theory, to the handbook, you know, without a significant amount of warning. So that's kind of where I know that came up, but I was just curious. Okay, that makes sense. I just want to make sure I was understanding you correctly.
And again, this is one of those things
Right.
that we find when we actually become policy driven, we find out that there are some little holes in the policy
Right.
that need to be cleared up, and where our practice and our policy didn't necessarily match.
And no matter what the policy is, as long as you stick to it, it's
That could be the only way.
Yeah.
That's what we're gonna preach, and that's what we're gonna continue to stand on. As a board, that's all we can do. So we
exactly.
wanna make sure that what we're sending out for policy is being followed and is, you know, applicable, right? If
Right.
it makes sense or if it doesn't. Minnie?
I just had a point of clarification on cheerleading. Did I believe I heard something about changing language on Schedule B, and I'm assuming that would come.
Yeah, we would talk through that with you.
Through negotiating.
Yeah, which we are currently in.
Good point, though.
Yeah. Okay. Anything else you'd like to add?
Nope, that's it. Again, these are all just first time, tell people first time, think about it for the next couple of weeks. If you have any questions, concerns, other ideas, comments, feel free to give them to the policy.
Anybody have any questions relative to those? Okay, so we just clicked off G, H, I, and J, which would move us to item 12, correspondence is going around, I believe down there by Rusty. Item 13, superintendent's report, Mr. Marston.
Did we do some correspondence?
Nope, down there.
Oh,
I just hit it quick and,
Sorry.
oh, that's all right.
Yeah, on the report, I just have a reminder to the board finance and policy committee. I appreciate some of you kind of squeezing your schedule, but we did set that meeting for Thursday at 5:15. So thank you, Tammy, and that'll get you out of there about your next meeting. So Thursday, 5:15 at central office. In regard to what was covered with the superintendent's report from Brent, the same news release that we'll be providing to the newspaper tonight. That will also go out to staff first thing in the morning. So they'll have that same information via their email. So we can see that they get that in a timely manner. And the last thing is, of course, we know that May 7th is the 18 mil renewal for the district. And being a critical vote, we need to make sure we turn out to vote. So I appreciate the board members. You've helped me work on a communication plan. You've helped me work on a news release, and also frequently asked questions. And we'll be meeting with different groups within our community and with our building to bring everybody up to date on what that election is, when it is, and how critical it is to the district.
Mr.
So
Marshall,
that'll be a big emphasis coming up.
that's a renewal, isn't it?
It is a renewal of the 18 mills, yeah.
No, I understand.
And that's my report.
Okay, thanks. Anybody have any questions relative to the superintendent's report? Okay. Item 14, hearing from board members.
Can I just make a comment? We have this, I think everybody got a copy of this. Just before our next meeting, in the high school cafeteria will be the annual spaghetti dinner. Mr. Kirchheimer and his kids do a great job on that, and so basically it's how you get fed before you come to the meeting next week. Or next time.
Good deal.
And it's,
Do we have a meeting before the meeting?
Well, we're going to get one now, but yeah.
the time is from 5 o'clock to 6:30, right across the hall, and it's a spaghetti dinner, and they've got dessert, and they even wait on you. They bring you your salad, right through it. They'll bring your dessert to you, they'll refill your glass. Good bunch of kids, and it's only $5. I just wanted to make sure, $5.
Okay. Everyone likes spaghetti. Anything else from anybody? Hearing nothing else, we will move to item 15 and adjourn at 7:53. So thanks everybody for coming.
I love the game.
Yeah, go and watch the game. Go Big Ten. You're not going to hear me say go Blue.